Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 461 through 463. The beginning of the war, Ace and Whitebeard's past. The force that could destroy the world, the power of the Tremor fruit, and an all-consuming inferno, Admiral Akainu's power. In these episodes, we get a lineup of so many giant, overpowered maniacs that, frankly, I have some concerns for the state of the seabed, like down to the bottom of the world, the core of the earth here. I don't know if everything's going to make it. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Florian for commissioning this episode and also for being very patient. I have had to reschedule, had a computer just completely shit the bed, basically. And we are going forward with a real sort of tentative hopefulness because I have a brand new system, guys, and I'm watching GarageBand struggle. And I'm starting to just think that GarageBand is the issue, and maybe I just need to get over it and learn a whole new editing system. These episodes, y'all, it is... Okay, see, now Florian is in the chat saying the exact thing that I was thinking. This feels like Monarch showing up. Those who don't know what I'm talking about, read the Cradle series. If you like One Piece, you're gonna fucking love the Cradle series. And yeah, very similar energy. We are, at the very least, we're in the midst of sages. Right? Minimum. Maybe not quite monarchs yet. But like, it's pretty close. If it is monarchs, they're just doing their light work. And this level of ability that these guys all just roll out, I keep thinking about, I have been covering for Spoil Me, and I recently just completely wrapped it up. I was covering the Mage Errant book series, which is written by somebody who is also, I believe, a One Piece fan. And he is a friend of Will White's as well, who wrote Cradle. And he gives his, like, characters some of the big time, like, great powers, like, abilities on this level. But the thing that he does is that he wants to let you know exactly how these powers work in terms of like the physics of what they affect. And all I could think for this series, like, you know, in these 3 episodes, the entire ocean gets frozen for like miles. And I was like, if John Bierce was writing this, he would have to explain to us exactly how deep the freeze goes, what wildlife was affected, and the way in which it would change the shape of the ecosystem for years to come. Like, that's the kind of thing that he would get into. And, you know, obviously in this show, that is super not a concern. And I totally respect that. It's not the vibe of the show. It shouldn't be included. But I did keep on stopping and thinking, like, that feels like it's a problem, like a really, you know, that's something that's going to be somebody out there in the wrong place at the wrong time, just trying to sail home with their fishing catch for the day, and they just get frozen in place, and then they start to walk on the ice to get home, and somebody else decides to do away with the ice, and now they're drowning. Like, it just feels like all the little people get caught up in this. So let's start with the first of these 3 episodes, the beginning of the war. And this one is the start of like flashbacks where we get to find out exactly how the relationship with Ace and Whitebeard shook out. I'm I'm sorry. I'm just seeing so many things in the chat that I missed. Demian, or was it Demian? Sorry. No, it was David Higgins. Challenge to Natasha going forward. Exercise of your choice when you cry as a result of watching this show. I don't know if there was something that you think I should have cried at in these 3 episodes, but I definitely didn't. So I'm feeling like either there's something coming up that you're thinking maybe, but in these 3, there was nothing that even got me close to that point. David says there is such a thing as fishmen. How do they feel about the ice? Another good point, you know? And there is correct me if I'm wrong, a world where fishmen live that is like under the ice, or I'm saying ice because of this, underwater, right? But I don't know if is that where our friends were headed after getting the ship coated? Was that where they were going, was to like see the fishmen? I feel like I remember this. It feels like ages ago now. The name of the guy who coated their ships, I can't remember his name either. But Fishman Islands is Florian. I don't know if I said this last time, but they just could have done a lot more with that name, I feel like. That's just, come on, somebody really fell asleep on the job. But yeah, so we pick up where we had left off with all of these ships just appearing up out of the water, having been coated so that they could sneak in and get the drop on them. Lots of slow pans across all of these like bonkers looking new characters that we have never seen before. And the thrust of the situation here is that Ace is going to be rescued whether he likes it or not. And he does like it. It's not like he has a death wish or anything. He wants to be rescued. But what he keeps sort of running up against is feeling like it's his own fault that he has gotten in this position in the first place. And we get to see some of the things that like led to all of this. So firstly, he evidently like was attempting to prove something, going up against Whitebeard, who was his own father's like rival. I don't remember if he says specifically archenemy. I feel like that might be too strong for the relationship that these two had. But the way that he manages to prove himself enough that Whitebeard is prepared to just like take him on as a crew member. And Ace himself is just like, get the fuck out of my face. Do you really think I would betray my father that way? Fuck you. And it's really funny, you guys. This was something that made me laugh because like, I recognize that the show does not know, or maybe the way that they have it set up, it is not known ahead of time. But in the Hulu version, because reminder on Netflix, I never got the interstitials that like pop up. I only have gotten those since I started watching on Hulu or on Funimation. But when Whitebeard asks Ace to join him and holds his hand out, Ace says, like, basically, shove it up your ass, you old fart, something like that. And he says that, and he's like really fierce, and his voice is very passionate about it. And then all of a sudden, it goes, and it goes into the interstitial, and it was just such a complete contrast from this like rageful, emotional moment to like this silly little thing where we're seeing Nami just sort of look slyly at the camera, and like Nami's not even in this, you know. It just, the whole thing felt like, wow, that timing really didn't feel like great, guys, but okay. And he has to be convinced over the course of time to give the crew a chance. He meets a bunch of the Whitebeard pirates, And he just keeps rejecting them and trying to throw himself overboard. And everybody is almost like impressed by this. They're sort of like, well, I mean, he's really fucking going for it. And he keeps trying over and over again. So he must be like determined and a badass. And I have to respect that. But eventually, he notices that they're calling Whitebeard Pops. And one of the guys, he like pulls him aside and says, why do you call him Pops? And this guy's name is Thatch. He's a wild hair. And he says, well, it's because he calls us son. And it's just a word, but it feels nice. And I just really liked the way that was worded, just that it feels nice. Like, that may seem a little bit weak, depending on who you are, but for me, it really worked, and just, it feels nice to say a thing is just a completely adequate reason to me to continue, like, doing things in that way. So... yeah, it's the eventually he winds up like joining in with the crew, and he has like a few different encounters with other pirates that really impress everybody, because he is just, with his abilities, able to take care of things with like very little support needed. And I really love the fact that everybody is so supportive of him getting second in command, even though it's been open for a long time, and there could have been this long-standing like expectation that a certain person would get it. And we have this like weird moment with Teach, who is standing there like, he's sitting at dinner, and Ace is saying, I'm surprised that you're not more upset that I got this job. Like, wouldn't you have wanted it? And Teach straight up says, I have no ambition. I don't want it. So, like, no problem for me at all. Please take the job. It's fine. But, it's weird to watch how amicable they are in that scene when you know how like left everything goes. And Teach, it turns out they find later on a devil fruit, and it's Thatch who's like showing it to everybody and saying we don't know what it does yet. And I don't know if it was like Thatch's property explicitly, or if it was part of like the crew's property and Thatch was just guarding it, or what exactly the setup here was. It sort of felt in the way that he was displaying it that it was his personally. And I'm always really, I want to see somebody eat a devil fruit for the first time, like actually watch what happens happen, because I don't really understand having a devil fruit and not consuming it as soon as possible. Like, what danger it is to have, because everybody wants them and how incredibly valuable they are. And it really just feels to me like I would just go for it, because like there have been only 2 or 3 devil fruit powers, if that I kind of thought the superpower they got was goofy and not worth it. Giraffe Man being one of them. I mean, there's, Chopper's fruit, if it had gone to anybody but an animal, and the human fruit would have just done nothing, and now you're not able to swim. I'm trying to think, because I know that there was another one that I was sort of like, I don't know, I feel like that one sucks, but I can't recall. So, like, I just don't feel like the risk of too big a downside with eating the fruit is high enough to, like, just sort of hoard it. But, I don't know. Oh, David says, isn't Thatch wonderful? Yeah, Thatch really does give like Johnny Bravo vibes with that hair too a little bit. And he is super, Florian says the bugger man. I think Booger, Mr. Five was the one who flicked his like incendiary boogers that were tiny bombs. See, and the thing is, like, I feel like that sucks, yes, but it's not the kind of like disability that I worry is going to ruin your life. I think it's a weird, lame power, but it is something that you could live with, and it wouldn't interfere too much with just regular day-to-day life. So I just feel like mostly it's a good idea to just handle the fruit right away and deal with it, because like nothing good comes of just having them. It never works out. And sure enough, we don't actually like see the scene, but we do see Teach looking at the fruit and getting this sort of evil grin on his face. And eventually we see Ace flipping out, and it turns out Teach killed Thatch and stole the fruit and disappeared. And this is a really, and it also, I won't get into it too much because it's a totally other property and also spoilers, but the scene that follows between Ace and Whitebeard is very reminiscent of Mage Errant also to me. Ace is disgusted. Like, in his opinion, what Teach did was so low and so vile that it is unforgivable. And the idea of letting him get away with it is just unthinkable to him, which frankly I agree with. Like, I understand and ultimately believe Whitebeard was in the right when you've got 20/20 vision, you know? But at the time, just saying to let it go when one of your fellow crewmates has been murdered by one of their own and robbed, I couldn't blame Ace for how upset he got. And basically, all Whitebeard can really say to sort of like justify why he's insisting that Ace leave alone is, I have a bad feeling about this one. He doesn't know anything. He's not speaking on like the level of somebody with actual further knowledge. He has a gut feeling. And that is not good enough for Ace, which I can't blame him for that not being good enough. I mean, just somebody being like, I don't know, I have a bad feeling you should probably just let that guy get away with murder and stolen property. I mean, yeah, it doesn't really sound like anything, does it? You know? So Ace goes against orders. He's explicitly told, don't do it. And he do it. He jumps over, he grabs like one of their little, their emergency escape pods. I say this like they're on a spaceship. What are those called? Dinghies? Lifeboats, I guess. And he takes off for parts unknown to try and track Teach down. And as he puts it later, if it hadn't been for him like deciding to do what the fuck he felt like and directly disobey orders, he would not be sitting here on death row right now. So I will say that I really like appreciate Ace's commitment to responsibility, because as much as you could just be like, I don't want to die and this is unfair, he doesn't say it's unfair. He's just like, I didn't listen to you and I just did what the fuck I wanted, and now they caught me and I'm gonna die, and that's my stupid head ass fault. But when you come back into the present, Whitebeard is having none of it, and straight up is like, what do you mean you went against orders? That's not true. I gave you the order to go and find him. What do you mean? And Ace is like, what the fuck are you doing, man? What? No, you didn't. You told me not to go. And he's like, I don't think so. Hey, friendo, whose other name I don't remember. You remember me telling Ace to go find Teach, right? And the other guy's like, yeah, I was there. I heard the whole thing. He said for you to go and track him down and serve justice because nobody fucks with the Whitebeard pirates, right? And I just love the fact that Ace is like, I cannot believe that you guys are deciding to like rewrite history so that you can save me. And of course, you know, because nobody messes with the Whitebeard pirates transitions straight into, that's why they're not going to mess with you, man. That's why we're here, because we're going to save you. And it's a really nice, like, we're just doing what we always do, which is hold shit up on our end. And Ace, like, the taking responsibility, he was willing to be like, I just flouted orders. But Whitebeard is saying to him in response, like, no, it's my responsibility that you've wound up here. And I have to say, there is an interesting argument to be made here. Like, he is changing the narrative by saying, I sent you. But him saying, like, I am the one who is responsible for you being here is a much more truthful sentence in a sense, because you could see it as, I refuse to support your desire for justice, which was a fair thing to want. And you felt like you had no choice but to go out and seek justice on your own. And I shouldn't have put you in the position where it felt as if nobody cared what happened to Thatch and that you had to like figure it out all by yourself. And I don't know if that's exactly like what he means, but I feel like that's what he's saying. Essentially, I made a bad call by telling you just to let it go. Like, maybe I did have a bad feeling about this one. Maybe I did sense that shit was like going to be more serious than you were maybe prepared for. But simply telling somebody who's just lost a friend that they're not allowed to pursue the person who took their life isn't really a super compassionate move. And it is no surprise that you wound up acting out the way that you did. And Ace is just so touched. Like, the fact that they have decided they're just going to play it like this, you can see it's really clear that they are resolved. Like, there's no changing their minds at this point. This is what's going to happen. And Ace pretty much sort of just like sags and is like, oh my God, okay, so this is what we're doing, huh? And, you know, guys, like last time, I can't remember if it was Florian. Somebody asked me in the chat, what did I think the deal was going to be with Whitebeard? Like, what kind of person did I expect him to be? And I was like, I'm wondering if maybe everything that, like, Ace thought about his being on Whitebeard's crew was true. Like, I was wondering if Whitebeard had ulterior motives for taking Ace on. And the fact that Ace's father was, like, a secret, I assumed that he just kept that to himself. But we find out that Whitebeard knew. Ace finally just goes and tells him. And he is feeling a lot of guilt because he's worried that as soon as Whitebeard hears who he's related to, that he's going to be like, I can't believe I let you on my crew. You're my enemy's son. And I like get the fuck off my ship or kill him. You know, like, who knows? And instead, Whitebeard's like, oh, that's your dad? Oh, well, that makes sense, actually. But, yeah, so was there anything else? And Ace is like, was there anything else? What do you mean? Like, this is kind of a big deal that I just told you. And Whitebeard's like, is it? Because, no offense, but I am not, like, really caring about it at all. I have a show that I was in the middle of, and you sort of came into my room, like, all dramatic and interrupted, and I'm watching my program, and if you could just let me get back to that, that'd be great. That's like really the energy of that scene is just sort of like, oh, okay. Well, thank you for telling me. Bye. Get lost now. And yeah, the fact that like all the Whitebeard pirates have this this connection where they all call him Pops because none of them have family anymore. And it's just like this sort of, you know, sweet, like, I hesitate to be like, oh, we're like a big family, because anybody who has like been in the workforce the past 10 years knows that in this workplace, we're a family is code for everything here is extremely toxic. So I hesitate to say that because I feel like now it's got an entirely different meaning to it, but I genuinely mean it in its actual literal sense here, where everybody does seem to feel we're part of a family. And it has given Ace a community, which is what makes it so sad in a way that he just decided to bail and go after Teach. Like, I understand why, and it's his devotion to his family that has made him go after him in a way. But I think it's a really good sort of metaphor for what can happen when people seek revenge. And you can call it justice, you can call it whatever, but like, really, you see the emotion that Ace is working with, and it's revenge he's after, you know? And the metaphor of like, this family that I just said I care so much about, I'm going to leave behind and abandon so I can go after this one person who did a bad thing, and thus not do what any of them asked me to do or wanted me to do, and I am striking out on my own with no support, just overly fixated on this, achieving this end. I feel like that's a pretty good metaphor for revenge, actually. Just like, does it require you to give up on things that allegedly matter to you? Does it make you turn your back on the thing that you say you're protecting? Is that really where you want to be putting your energy, you know? So yeah, this backstory I do really enjoy. I also love the fact that he meets Shanks at one point, and in the dub, Shanks tells him, go ahead and pop a squat and let's have a chat, something like that. He says pop a squat, and I was just like, oh man, I do not care for pop a squat. I have heard that one a lot less in the past few years, and I like it, and I'm sad that it's coming back. So let's see. I'm trying to make sure that I haven't missed anything like in this episode. I think that's about everything. I really appreciated the fact that Ace, because my guess about what Whitebeard was going to be like, I was sort of thinking that maybe Ace got, you know? And oh my God, guys, I'm so sorry. I got distracted. I got a pop-up where I can turn on captions. I'm not sure if this is like for Crowdcast or what, but I really like the idea that I could enable captions on here. And I'm going to turn that on and just see if it works, because that's kind of a neat option, you know? But anyway, so my guess about like whether or not he had been tricked sort of depended on Ace having not necessarily even bad judgment, but simply him getting tricked. It feels a little, it would cheapen everything, of course, and it would also make Ace a victim in a way beyond just getting grabbed by the Marines the way he has been to begin with. And I'm really glad that it turns out Whitebeard seems like such a solid dude. I still have a lot of questions about the series of IVs and hoses that we saw that one time, because that's just not coming up. And I don't know why not. Why would you bring it up and then just never mention it again? I don't get it. But he is like worthy of Ace, because Ace is a good dude who seems to have a good heart and want to do the right thing most of the time. And it would have been a huge bummer for him to have been almost like preyed upon by somebody who misled him and got his loyalty in a false way. And I'm really glad that we get to see how resistant Ace was to joining up. So he had to like convince Ace, and it wasn't even him that convinced him. It was the other members of the crew, which when your employees are so happy that they convince somebody who's like on probation to join permanently, I feel like that's the best representation you can get. Like, your own people are trying to sell it to another person. They must be very happy. So, yeah, I was just really pleased to see, like, the level of the brotherhood between all of them. And also, last episode, I had been, like, guessing about whether or not Luffy would give a shit that he and Ace weren't related. But I started to realize towards the end of the episode, like, wait, he probably must know already that they're not related. I don't know why I didn't realize. And sure enough, he just blurts it out and tells everybody on the pirate ship who Ace is, which at this point I like, because the secret has been blown over at Navy headquarters anyway, and they're just getting caught up to the rest of the group, you know? So I really like the fact that Luffy just blurts this out and is like, oh, yeah, that was supposed to be a secret. Oops. So I feel like almost all of that I just mentioned is pretty much like the first episode. And Whitebeard, his power, so he's the one with the tremor fruit. And what he can do is start earthquakes, basically. And the way that he handles this here is, I'm going to start an earthquake underwater, and I'm going to create a tsunami. And it's sort of like a slow burn. The tsunami strikes like way, way later, because everybody is thinking he just did an earthquake, a sea quake, I think, what's his name calls it. And it turns out like he had a bigger goal than that. So everybody has to help, because once again, we're running into the too many different characters in this series thing where I cannot keep people's names straight. In response to the start of this this tsunami, is it Aokiji that freezes the water? I can't remember his name. I feel like that's who it was, but you guys, I wish that there was like a some sort of quick access, like with faces, just a sort of character map that I could follow. Because it just, there are so many people and they have so many different powers, and some of their names can sound really similar to other names. And, okay, that is the one. Aokiji, says David. That's how you say it, Aokiji. But yeah, so he's the one that freezes everything in place, which, it results in this thing. All of the pirates are just like pouring off the ships and onto the ice, because they're just like, oh, thank you very much for providing us an extremely easy way to get at you, soldiermen. We will be coming to fight you now. And then later on, they're like in the middle of this ice flow when it starts to be taken apart, basically. And the guys have to be like, retreat, because they're going to fall through the ice. And I was just kind of like, yeah, look, if you've got somebody who can create all of this ice out of nowhere, you probably don't want to, like, not only get smug about, oh, good, now we have a way to, like, walk toward you, but also consider the fact that, like, you're kind of on that person's turf now. And I am just going to say, like, I know that it's not exactly bending what he's doing. Like, this is a devil fruit power. But if you are up against somebody who's like a waterbender, you don't try and fight them in a stream. You know, you don't go ahead and, like, put yourself in their territory decidedly. What do you think is going to happen? So the fact that these dudes just, like, jump off the ship, start to do their thing, and then immediately are like, wait, get back on the ship. I was like, yeah, that feels like you should have figured that out already, you know? So I'm trying to see, because, like, you guys, there is a lot of action in the third one of these episodes, and the first of the three has most of the flashback stuff, and so even though there's a lot of repetition, it's still, like, pretty compelling. But the middle one is really, like, recovering a lot of the same ground as the first episode. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm, like, covering everything. But what I do is I have the episode playing on the background and I, like, just let it play through. Or I'll move the cursor around to jump to different scenes. And I kept thinking that I was, like, in the wrong spot because I keep seeing duplicate scenes from the first of the three episodes. And it's like, no, they just replayed that entire scene in episode 2. So all of this is, let's see, what's the name of the guy with the yellow hair that, like, sticks out in every direction, who now seems to be Whitebeard's right hand? Marco? Is that him? I'm trying to see, like, if they say their names here. But Marco, says Florian. Okay, cool. Yeah, the second has a lot of repeats. Yeah, I'm looking through it and I'm just kind of like, when does because, you know, the fighting, and I hesitate to even call it that because it's just like turning whole swaths of ocean into ice or tsunamis. That doesn't feel like it deserves the name fight. That doesn't feel like an accurate, adequate description of what's happening here. But like, the way that this episode goes is basically just Ace starting to be like, they like me, they really like me, and they're going to have my back, before we cut over to Luffy, who all of a sudden their ship starts being pulled backward and nobody can figure out why it's happening. I have to assume that it has something to do with baby oars, I feel like is what Ace calls him. But at this point we don't know about him. So everybody is just like, oh my God, what is going on? Like, there's no reason for the ocean to act like this. And they are the crew members are asking Buggy, like, but you said it was fated that you were going to be king of the pirates. So if you can't figure out how to fix this, then how can that be true? And I really love the nature of this. It got me, like, thinking about how, like, cults of personality work. And the fact that you have got guys there that are arguing, like, well, I guess he's just giving up because Buggy doesn't have an answer for them. So he says something like, I guess I just have to wait for a miracle. Eventually one will happen. And some of those guys take it as a admission of just, I guess I maybe was wrong, or lack of faith. I think saying, I'm sure a miracle will happen, is actually a demonstration of faith. And that is what one of the other guys chimes in with. Is like, you guys think he's giving up? That's just confidence. He knows that something is going to go right. That, you know, And I love, off to the side, Mr. 3 is just kind of watching all of this like, you guys know, like when the guy says it's confidence and he's like, no, it's not. And eventually that dude has convinced everybody else. And so they just start cheering Buggy on wildly. And dude's like, this is really, I hate watching this. Oh my God, what the fuck? And yeah, this is something that is so weird and really like, I think any of us potentially could fall for this. The idea of like, I am going to give the person that I really like and admire every benefit of the doubt and create whole narratives that excuse whatever it is that they're doing or whatever fuck up they just made in like, not just a, well, you know, everybody makes mistakes. No. It's never just like, oh, sometimes people fuck up. It's always, this is part of a bigger game. The one that Rashawn cites all the time that makes her crazy is he's playing chess, you're playing checkers. And that is like, for me, the giveaway. If somebody says that, he's playing chess and you're playing checkers, they are trying to spin a narrative where what exactly it looks like is happening isn't happening. Because that's too easy and obvious, and you are so dumb that you fell for it. And this is like the discourse where she and I really like got into it, talking about the meaning behind people saying this, was right around when fucking Kanye West like was clearly going through a manic episode and just starting to low-key like stalk Kim and say shit that was like wildly anti-Semitic and real like conspiracy theory stuff. And there were so many people out there who just didn't want for Kanye to be having a very simple like mental illness episode that a lot of other people also deal with and can recognize. They didn't want him to suffer from this, so they turned it into like, there are hidden messages here, or he is, or he's just like right, or he's got inside information because of how like high up the social food chain he is, that he knows people and knows things we don't know. Like the whole way that went was everybody who like knows what these sorts of episodes looks like going, guys, come on, clearly it's fucking textbook. And then his like diehard fans coming up with these elaborate explanations that are pulled completely out of their ass. And, you know, same thing with like an Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate got caught trafficking women. It's a very like clear, right? But he did this thing where he has this like weird little army of creepy misogynists who are just like, oh, he's exactly where he wants to be. He wasn't tracking or trafficking women. He got set up. Like, you know, just all of these scenarios that they have invented, completely invented, in order to make somebody look like it's all part of their big plan. And it's because they want to believe that somebody has shit under control. They want to believe that there is a person who is an authority figure they can turn to. And it's understandable. I think a lot of us take comfort in the sort of notion that there is a person in charge who knows what's going on and what to do in any given scenario. But we just will fall into this trap where we forget everybody's a person and we want somebody to be a thing for us. It's not about that person anymore. It becomes them being a symbol. And so you reach this point where either you have to like come to terms with the fact that they are not a symbol, they are a full person, and you have got to find what you're seeking from them elsewhere, or you have to disconnect from them as a person and hold yourself back. And this is actually what I think Beyonce has done like amazingly well in terms of her branding, is that she has figured out how to hold herself apart in terms of her exposure in the media so that she isn't all over social media. She like posts on Instagram pretty consistently, but she doesn't come out here tweeting her like fucking cold takes. She drops info when she's about to go on tour or release an album, and then she shows up to the Met Gala looking unbelievable, and she performs an amazing show, and then she goes into hibernation mode, and nobody can find her, and nobody knows what she's doing or where she is. And honestly, that is the kind of behavior that's like hyper curated, that I feel like she is making herself into a symbol, and she knows that's what she's doing, and she's being very careful about it because she doesn't want to be messy. She doesn't want her whole like ass hanging out on the internet while everybody watches her have like a nervous breakdown, you know? She's just really, really private, but it also dovetails well with the brand she's set up for herself. So what I'm saying in all of this is that Buggy's people are in a cult of personality. It's really fascinating to watch from the sidelines as he like very openly, in my opinion, admits he doesn't know what the fuck is going on. And the guys keep trying to act like him admitting that is somehow proof that he's like a better, more capable person than all of them. They bend themselves over backwards to make excuses. And it ultimately does seem to work out because he is just here like on this ship, like laying down, staring up at the clouds going, I mean, I guess there has to be another miracle at some point. Like, I can't do anything. This sucks. So I'm just going to wait it out. And then you see this like huge shadow, I guess, cross over him. And this is when you see baby oars come out. Now I'm getting all of this like frustrating interference on Hulu trying to like jump around because the all-consuming inferno, I'm trying to like jump to that episode and I cannot get Hulu to work. What is the name of the person who does the all-consuming inferno? And this guy is the one that I think, Florian, you told me is based on like a martial arts star or something, like his appearances. So yeah, this dude, like, there's a fight between him and this is sort of, oh my God, you guys, I just noticed that fucking, because we have Toby and Helmeppo off to the side at one point, and they're kind of having like a freak out about whether they're going to be able to do anything because the scale of the fight here and what everybody is capable of is just completely dwarfs anything that they are able to do. So they're debating whether they even want to get involved. And I had not noticed that guy with the heart-shaped shades is here. And I can't remember his name, y'all, but I really enjoy this dude, and I wish that he would show up more because he is a good time. Florian says Akainu. Okay, right. So that's his name is in the title. Buggy is a demagogue. I hadn't thought of this. This is the gap between him and Luffy. Buggy secretly has the luck fruit, not the chop fruit. I like that idea, man. The luck fruit. You guys, I know that I've asked this before, and once again, I know that it's probably loaded with spoilers and you can't do it, but if anybody has like a spreadsheet of all of the different devil fruits that we have come across so far, the characters who have had them, what the fruit is called, and what it does, I really just want to peruse it. I want to see broken down in those basic terms what we're working with here. Because it's just, there are so many and the names and everything are always so weird. So let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything that I missed in this one. Nope, that's about it. So I feel like the name of the ship being Moby Dick, I feel like should mean more than I'm getting. I don't know if that's significant at all, because it's modeled to look like a whale. It's got like that front hull has the sort of striping on it that the bottom jaw of a whale has. So let's see. Oh, that's right. So these dudes that go up against each other, we've got the guy who's like a strong man, and he manages to like cut a huge piece of the ice out and lift it and like chuck it at the Marines. And I don't know, I don't remember, guys, is this somebody who is part of the Whitebeard Pirates, or is this guy like an independent contractor, somebody like separate from them? And he throws it, but then it gets, I think it's Akainu who intercepts it and keeps it from crushing all of the poor Marines, who, by the way, are yelling about how it's going to crush them while standing completely still. I will never not be entertained by that. When people are like, oh my God, it's coming for us, and they stand stock still and just let it happen. But we also get a little check-in with Smoker, and what's the name of the girl who's the really good sword fighter? You guys, I really expected there to be more to her, that we were going to like encounter her again. There would be a whole thing. It is wild to me that we met her so long ago and pretty much nothing ever happened with that. You know, she runs into Zoro, who like thinks that she looks exactly like the girl who died that he used to train with. It all just felt like we were getting something significant set up, and then nothing. And I don't know, like maybe she's meant to be like that girl's sister, and that's why they look so alike. Or maybe it's that she faked her own death, and that is the girl, but she had an injury that caused her to have to wear glasses, and so now she just like doesn't have great eyesight anymore, or whatever. I don't know. But when she showed up here, I was almost like, don't do that. Don't show me this girl that I was like kind of hype about and you did nothing with, because it just feels like a tease. Jozu, he belongs to Whitebeard. He ate the diamond fruit. Oh, that's right. Yes, I forgot about that. Okay. And he looked crazy. That was the other thing actually about these 3 episodes, was I felt like overall the animation was really poor in comparison to what I've sort of gotten used to. We had way more still frames with the camera moving than usual. It was a lot less of our actual characters moving than I was used to. David says, really good sword fighter in quotes with a laugh face. Why are you laughing? Wasn't she just a really good sword fighter? What do you mean? Why? What should I have said? I don't know what I did wrong. Help. But anyway, so yeah, there's like basically the whole gang is here. So almost everybody that we've ever seen in our lives is mixed into this whole conflict here. But what I really was sort of like getting to was the fact that there are so many different like new people here on top of all of these older characters that we haven't seen in a while. I don't know like how I am going to keep these people straight. I genuinely feel like it's going to be frustrating for people to listen to. If they know the characters really well, they will be able to tell by the description I give of what they look like. But if they don't, I am worried that it's going to be impossible for people to follow, because I'm just like, you know, the guy with the hat talked to the other guy who has that weird beard. And I really wish that I could get everybody's names, but it feels like just as soon as I start to remember, we switch settings and there's a whole new cast that I've got to get used to. We don't see the cast that I started to get a hold of for like a year, and then they pop back up again, and I'm expected to just pick it up again, and I can't do it. It's just, I feel like I need something to help me, some sort of cheat sheet. I don't know what. But anyway, so that, like, that fight, and then the, what is it that the Inferno power that he has? I'm trying to find this, what is, it says the Gura Gura no Mi's ability. Remind me, kids, what's that? The Gura Gura no Mi's. Am I in the wrong? No, that's the right section. Oh, there's a bunch of chat. Sorry, guys. David says low quality animation means high quality is coming. That does tend to be the rule, and I'm trying to keep that in mind. But it is really like the combination of there being people with fantastic powers, the likes of which we've never seen, but then kind of lackluster animation means that I wish it hit a little harder than it does, you know? Florian says she is, but mostly she gets compared to Zoro, and there she ain't that good, but Zoro is just on a different level. Yeah, and like she's good against like the soldiers and stuff that try to put her down in the street. I feel like she took care of a bunch of guys. Zoro fangirl who is in denial of being a fangirl. Is she? I don't remember that, but I believe you. Marco, he ate the Phoenix fruit, a mystical Zoan type. Right. And his, like, basically, he can just heal. Here goes a power that feels really OP, where it's just, you can do damage to me, and I'll take that damage, but it won't matter. Damn. Like, that feels ideal, you know? And the whole, this scene of, like, jumping from one person to another and seeing all of them reacting, there is something really funny about Kobe and Helmeppo being included in that group, because we keep seeing dudes who are like incredibly powerful and are just, you know, they are impressed. And so we know if this dude who is capable of such dramatic shit is impressed, then that means this is a big deal. But when it's just Helmeppo and Kobe being impressed, I mean, they're just like infants, you know? I don't feel like I care about their opinion in this moment. It's just not super relevant to me. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I'm kind of coming to the end of my time here, but the all-consuming Inferno ends with the appearance of this giant who is so, like, he can walk on the ocean floor, and it comes up to like not even hip level. He is insanely big. And I was looking at him and I was thinking, like, what, have we seen a creature this size before? And then Ace calls him like baby oars, and I was like, oh, oars, right. But I feel like I keep sort of mistakenly thinking that Oars was created from parts by Moria, and he wasn't. He was just like a really lucky find as a corpse, but he was, you know, a living thing all on his own at one point. So now we've got this new baby Oars who shows up, and he has these long eyelashes, and he yells at everybody because I think that, like, the Marines might have mistakenly thought this dude was coming to help them out. I'm not really sure what they expected, but to me, the expressions they had on their faces when they saw him, it didn't feel like they were afraid enough. And I was sort of like, is this their dude? But then Baby Oars basically yells, that's my friend Ace, and you're not going to screw with him. Leave him alone. And that's how the episode ends. And you all, I really, really cannot wait to see more of this guy, because I enjoyed Oars a lot as a character, even though he was technically Luffy. And this giant monster who dwarfs, like, multiple ships can sail around him and they won't compare in size, not even in the slightest. I can't wait to see what happens with this guy. And what his, like, there has to be something that he can do beyond just be gigantic. Maybe not. I mean, I guess that's enough of an advantage. But anyway, I'm just wondering if he has any other tricks up his sleeve as well. So I'm going to wrap this one up. But I feel like, you know, guys, I get this sometimes where there is a sensation that I have left something out. And because I'm having so much trouble bouncing around within the episode on Hulu, it's hard for me to, like, double check anything. Is anybody in the chat feeling like I wanted her to talk about XYZ and she hasn't even mentioned it? Because I'm sorry, these are kind of frantic episodes. It's sort of the fact that the whole gang is here means that everybody gets jumped to with the camera multiple times, which means that there isn't the same sense of, like, narrative cohesion, because you have to, like, leap around to all of these various parties that are involved, but there aren't just two sides to this. There are multiple sides, really. You could break it down to two sides, the Marines and then the Whitebeard people, but it's a lot more than that in terms of, like, the factors. So it can get a little, like, difficult to talk about because things don't follow the narrative structure that I'm used to with the way these guys fight. David says Whitebeard being a gaslighter. I mean, I talked about that, right? And the fact that he is just like, no, I'm taking responsibility for it, which I'm here for. Florian says maybe what you think about the lava power. It's really cool looking. I love the fact that at one point Whitebeard looks up and is like, that's really bright. Can you tone it down? I think he might have been saying that to Marco, though, actually, the Phoenix. But I will be honest with you guys. I get a little bit bored of, like, fire-related powers. There's just something about them that I'm like, I don't know. We've done this, yawn. You know what I mean? So it's like, I can understand that this is super impressive and something to be afraid of, but it's not as fun and creative as some of the other powers. So it just, you know, I kind of, especially considering this dude is, like, so distinctive looking, I kind of wanted his power to be something equally as distinctive. And I don't know what it would have been. But Florian says, I feel you feel the same about swords, which I said before. Yeah, I remember you. And yeah, exactly. David says they never really do damage. And that's the tough thing just in general about the show, is that a lot of people don't really do damage. You know, like, we're told that they do, but then people just get up and walk away. So it's hard to take it seriously. But yeah, especially what I want actually is a check-in with our friend Crocodile as well, too. We haven't seen him too much. We've been mostly, when we're on the ship with Luffy, it's Jinbei, Luffy, and Buggy that we see. And kind of wondering what Crocodile is thinking about all of this. But anyway, okay, I gotta wrap up. Thank you guys again for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you and your patience. Until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.